So you should all be getting like some sort of notice about this being recorded. So we're going to go ahead and begin. So thank you again for answering the chat question and welcome again to our Good Shepherd Town Hall meeting. Okay, hang on one second because I see people still coming in. Selena will take care of them. As customary, we will begin with our land acknowledgement. So we'll take a pause here. We live in the original homeland of the Lenape Hoking. These communities and others like them are the original stewards of our land. Due to colonization, the Lenape people continue today as a diaspora, including 3 federally recognized nations in Oklahoma and Wisconsin. We recognize that honoring and respecting Mother Earth, Haki, is central to the Lenape culture. Indigenous people continue to protect and honor all wisdom, past, present, and future, and will always do so. Indigenous peoples have and continue to experience genocide, theft of their ancestral lands, and other atrocities connected to colonization. It is necessary to honor these beginnings, histories, and realities. It is essential to honor the ongoing legacies of indigenous cultures, indigenous cultures nurture within our communities and the land that we gather, live, learn, and work on. It is necessary to acknowledge indigenous communities are still here and continue to take action against harm and work for the collective healing and sustainability of humanity and the earth. So thank you everyone for taking that moment to do that. And I would like to invite our executive director, Michelle Yanche, to share some updates with us. And I'm going to stop sharing the screen, Michelle, and welcome.
Oh, thank you. Then what I'm going to get to put the I don't know what it's called, gallery view, so I can see more faces. Oh, look, I see all of the backgrounds.
Hey, everybody! See them
too. Everybody, I see everybody. Scrolling. I need to get one of these fun backgrounds. So hey, I'm gonna keep my remarks brief so that there's plenty of time for the program today. I don't know about you, but I am super excited for this town hall, mainly because I do not have to do a lot of the talking. And I am more than anything really, really excited about hearing about all of the incredible work that our anti-racism and equity branch departments have been doing, and really just like feeling the energy that is, I know, going to come from everything that they're going to share with us, and we're all going to learn more about some of the initiatives that they are preparing to launch that are really going to help move the organization and all of our work forward. So I'm super excited about that. Thankfully, at least for the time being, things remain very quiet on the government budget front, although we're not out of the woods and we know that there's still some uncertainty about what may happen later this year. At least for the moment, we are in a place of relative calm and quiet, and so I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts. And just want to thank all of you for all of the amazing work that you're doing. And I'm going to be on for the whole program today, and we'll be happy to take any questions about anything, any topic that you have on your minds at the end of the program. All right, I'm passing it the baton. Am I passing it back to you, Celia? Oh no, Diana. I think I'm passing it to Diana. Whoever I'm passing it to, take it away.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you. Yes.
Go ahead, Cece. You were on mute.
I know. I'm like, why isn't she hearing me? Welcome, Diana.
That is the quote of 2020. You're on mute. So hi, everyone. So we can go to the next slide. So what I'm going to do is give you an overview of the work that we've done and the work that we will do. Also, I thought it was fair to start with, we presented two at the town hall in June. And so what you'll see here is kind of a revisit of what we presented at that town hall, because it feels fair to give you an update on what we promised we would do. So what you'll see here, if it's a yellow charged battery, that means it's in progress, it's moving, it's happening, but it's not complete. Um, and then if it's the two, I'm sure people know about like music. The two symbol is like it's on pause. And red means it's on pause for the year because of other priorities. The green means that not that it's completed, but it's fully kind of going and operational. So that's kind of what the symbols mean. So yellow means we're charging, we're moving, but we're not fully there. Green means we're going, we're good, and then the red, we're on pause. So we had promised last year that we would refine equitable hiring practices. We are going to do that. Alex Marcus and I hosted focus groups in the fall of 2020 to kind of get feedback from the initial processes that we had launched. Anyone who had participated in an equitable hiring process, whether as a panelist or whether as an interviewee, was invited to give us some feedback. We actually got some really great feedback through those sessions. And so, what we're now doing is we're going to revamp the process based on that feedback. And that's again in partnership with human resources. We're going to relaunch what I call phase two of that process you'll see in a bit in March, and then in April, really officially relaunch it. So that's kind of in progress, in movement, and it's happening. We are kind of launching an anti-racism and equity institute that's actually starting in March of 2021. We're in progress of developing online resources. Selena on our team has taken the lead on also creating a web page for the anti-racism and equity branch. So on the GSS webpage, external folks, whether you're a potential employee, a partner, or a funder, you'll be able to learn more about the work that we're doing and the team leading the work. Oh, I apologize for that. Brooklyn is barking in the background. Um, right on time too. Sorry. So then we were thinking about launching an external kind of advisory group of folks. However, because of other priorities, we are putting that on hold for this year. So it's not that we won't revisit it; it's just on hold for the year because of other priorities. And you'll see program scorecard. We are going to lead that effort and pick it up. And then I'm so sorry. Uh, Say hi, Brooklyn. um, Program scorecard, we are going to lead that effort and pick it up. We're also already working with the board of directors. So you'll hear more about that. Cece, can you go to the next slide? So, what we've done already, outside of the work that we said we would do, we have already done other pieces of the work. So, from July 2020 to January 2021, you'll see on the left hand side all of the things we've done. We've introduced new workshops and panel discussions and conversations, and as well as it brought back other opportunities. So, I'm going to highlight only the new things that we've done that are on the left hand side. We introduced affinity spaces. So, we had a people of color affinity space temporary where folks could kind of connect and collaborate on what liberation meant for them and really process the work of racial justice from their lens and perspective. We also offered an exclusive affinity space for Black women to really kind of get together and connect, to talk about issues that matter to them and self care and resilience. So, both of those groups were new opportunities and they happened over a series of 3 sessions with facilitators from outside of the agency. I co facilitated the People of Color affinity space. We also introduced a new training, an introduction to equity framework principles and key terms. That training was a 3-day intensive, and a lot of actually executive team members participated in that, as well as a few senior leadership members. I bring that up because we always want to make sure that everyone is well informed of the work and how it should be moving across an agency. That training, we received really, really good feedback about it, and it will now be a mandatory training for all staff moving forward. So you'll see that come out in the catalog in the updates soon. So those were kind of new things that we introduced in the agency on the left-hand side. Actually, most of them are new, even addressing anti-Blackness in Latinx communities and unpacking whiteness, microaggressions to anti-racism accountability. On the right hand, and National Day of Racial Healing, for those who did not attend, we in January actually hosted a 4-hour event that included a panel, meditation, self care practices, as well as a performance by the Peace Poets. If you haven't, feel free to check it out. It's actually on our YouTube page. What we plan on doing, so I'm going to move to the right hand column. So you'll see that this is, again, all the things we've done in the first half of the fiscal year. What you see on the right hand side is what we're going to do in the second half of the fiscal year. So the board of directors, as promised, they have started a task force related to DEI initiatives and efforts. It just launched, and so we are supporting them. Michelle and I particularly are on that task force as well, and helping them kind of move through that particular piece of work. Knowledge management retention process. We'll talk about that in a second. Again, the ARE Institute is launching in March. Again, we're refining hiring practices, talk a little bit about core competencies, and we are going to launch the ARE program scorecard project as well. And then we'll do a knowledge management retention process, particularly for the evaluation support department. Those are kind of all of the projects that are coming down the pipeline or in process. Cece, can you go to the next slide? So here's a little bit more context. So the board of directors, their task force is particularly kind of focused right now on what I call an assessment phase. What knowledge does the board have around DEI issues? And also kind of getting an assessment of the sector. What are some best practices that the board actually wants to think about applying to the work that they're doing? It will also include a board education phase, kind of getting them acclimated to what does it mean to do this work and developing shared understanding of the terms, which will eventually lead to a creation of well-informed DEI racial justice strategy. So DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. The next thing that we're doing that will be relatively new, and we talk about this in the equity framework as part of succession planning, is making sure that everyone who has access to knowledge and information has it. The town hall is one strategy for that. But when leaders leave an agency or someone in any role leaves an agency, there tends to be information that can be lost. So what we are going to launch for particularly in March is a process for community-based programs, particularly since their leadership they will see a transition in leadership. And so what we're going to do is really go through an intensive process where we invite folks from across the agency. We're looking for up to 8 staff at varying levels. You don't have to be a community-based staff member to participate in the process. And this email will go out in a couple weeks. But essentially, we're looking for folks to kind of help us capture some knowledge from that particular leader. And so that process, again, will be a bit intensive, but open to all staff who want to participate. Also, all staff who want to participate can apply. We are only going to limit it to 8 staff. And so the request is we will do a randomized lottery to select the 8 staff who sit on that particular group. Just to make sure that we're managing, we're not including bias in who gets selected. The core competencies project. So in the fall, we actually decided to design some core competencies for, particularly we started with GSS leaders in the community-based programs. And so the thought process was, let's kind of have conversations about what does it mean to, what skills are important for staff to have to be able to do the work that we do, but with a racial and social justice lens. So we actually had meetings with over 40 stakeholders from across the agency, particularly community-based leadership, program directors, division directors, and a subcommittee of lead, as well as the executive team. Again, these conversations just started. We will continue to have more conversations as we progress forward. But we develop a pretty robust list. So we're going to actually re-pick up those conversations because we kind of stopped them in November. But we're going to continue to have them and really further develop that process. And also, what does it look like to offer developmental opportunities to support staff so that they know how to actually, what does it mean to kind of lean into these new core competencies. So that's another project. The ARE Institute will include over 126 hours of learning. This particular cohort that we're launching in March will be for external nonprofit partners. And we'll have a couple of our staff participate in that process as well, but not many. Um, Also, to note that we will launch an internal cohort version of the Institute starting in FY22. It'll be a condensed kind of timeline, it won't be over the course of 14 months. And to also name that we will want to target and kind of really support and elevate lead alum and current members who are doing kind of equity ambassador work already. The other piece to that too is that we are offering many of the workshops that we will offer through the institute already through the workshops, the GSS workshops. They're just not in a collective kind of sequence, but folks can participate and actually have participated in a few of the workshops already. Last year, we had a town hall in April or May where we talked about the decision making process. We used that particular decision making process for after school layoffs. And then we also we took in the feedback for it, and then we made modifications and relaunched what I call version 2.0 in the fall with community based programs, another subset. And then we're going to actually recollect some more feedback and revise the process again to make sure again that we're doing the best that we can. We did present on the initial process at a town hall last April or May. If folks want to learn more about that, next slide. So I just wanted to share the workshops that are going to be in the ARE Institute. And again, as you can see, some of these already currently exist. Some of them will be new. Some of them, though, already exist at the agency level. Go to the next slide, Cece. Well, actually, now it's back to you, Cece. I will say, well, actually, I actually come back on for learning and development, then I'll share a couple more updates. But thank you for your patience. And Brooklyn also says thank you for your patience.
Hi, Brooklyn, and thank you so much, Diana, for that update. The overall update on the anti-racism and equity branch of our organization. So, hello again, everyone. It's me, Celia Ceballos, Assistant Director of Mission and Culture. My pronouns are she, her, hers, or CC. We recognize that culture is as equally important as mission in the workplace, and we want colleagues to feel and know that their work has purpose and makes a difference. Fitting into a culture whose values aligns with one's own personal values is paramount and fosters a strong mission-driven culture. Ensuring a welcoming and inclusive environment is important to us, and we want to make sure that everyone feels welcome for who they are, for who we are, for who you are. At the heart of the work that we do at Good Shepherd and in the spirit of our founder, Sister Mary Euphrasia, we know that everything we do is driven and propelled by relationships. And this department was created to ensure that our organization remains connected to that deep, important part of history at Good Shepherd Services, which continues today. So I'm here to give you some updates on mission and culture. Since June, the cultural calendar of observances was beautifully redesigned by our mission and culture Good Shepherd volunteer Selena Chapman and has been released on a monthly basis. We now collaborate with the Trauma Informed Practice and Resilience team so that we include the tip of the month. Along the way, we have had guest contributors who have assisted in proofing for correct info. Huge shout out to Kim Andrews. She's been doing a lot of work with us on this. In the spirit of cultural and educational humility, we include informational links and videos on how to honor and celebrate holidays. In addition, we work closely with Michelle to create messages around religious observances that have been guided by conversations by observing colleagues. As always, we invite feedback, and if you would like to share how you celebrate certain events, please post on the green door on the release of a particular calendar. Remember, Sharing is caring. So, since June, we have coordinated special events in collaboration with fellow colleagues. For example, we have coordinated a very successful event in observance of Hispanic, Latino, Latina, Latinx Heritage Month, which allowed staff from across GSS to showcase various cultural backgrounds that makes up for this diverse group of folks. And it was a lot of fun. We engage with program leadership in health services and in our domestic violence programs to host events in October on Breast Cancer Awareness and Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which included activities and the creation of Zoom backgrounds to showcase solidarity. We hosted an event in honor of Native American History Month called Living Land Acknowledgement, which was hosted by the Lenape Center in New York City and has led to the updated land acknowledgement that you will hear about later this month. We also created a very special resource booklet on the cultural observation of Kwanzaa, of which I learned a lot about, and I'm just so in love with just the whole concept of it. It was a wonderful experience for me. As Diana mentioned, we did host the National Day of Racial Healing, which it was being done at the very same time that many organizations were doing it across the nation, and it was such a great experience. We organized the 2021 Just Love Committee and observed Just Love Week earlier this month. This year, we focused on our residential colleagues who have been so essential during this pandemic. Over 1,000 baked goods were delivered to all 10 of our residential programs and were received with much excitement and appreciation. And I keep hearing about those snickerdoodle, y'all. I didn't get anything, but anyway. Uh, and part of this event was sending cards by colleagues to colleagues to show love and lift each other up. Over 300 individual cards were submitted and sent out to individuals, and the love keeps multiplying even as I speak. Special thanks to Selena Chapman, Brooke McPherson, Elizabeth Ortega, Star Cummings, Lauren McGee, the amazing facilities department, and the dope Wanda Papaya for your help in this hard work. We are now welcoming new colleagues and in some cases returning colleagues on a monthly basis through public email, and that has been very well received. And we want to make sure that people feel welcomed. And I am personally excited to have been teamed up with a couple of members of the Black Affinity Group to host a portion of the 24-hour Blackness event coming on Friday, and you'll hear more about that in a few minutes. About the GSS quote of the week. In the spirit of lifting employee morale and educational humility, we have designed and published a weekly GSS quote of the week, which have been attributed to inspirational leaders and public figures, past and present, along with a bit of bio about the person that was quoted. Folks are using these in team meetings, and I keep hearing a lot about that, or sharing them outside of Good Shepherd, which is great. Now, whoever read the quote of the week sent earlier today, if you can put it in the chat, that'll be greatly appreciated. It was by May Jameson, wonderful lady. Okay, so a little bit about our cultural onboarding learning events. As part of the onboarding experience for new staff, we continue to provide virtual monthly sessions with an average of 20 colleagues in attendance for each session. I am so very happy to say that in collaboration with the Trauma Informed Practice and Resilience team, along with the TIP Steering Committee, we have redesigned our Good Shepherd approach so that it better aligns with our youth, family, community development philosophy, as well as the trauma informed practice. And it also falls in our anti racism and equity framework. Approximately 57 folks have attended since we launched in December. So we're doing it monthly and it's a 2-day event. Related to that, I am participating in a work group that has been tasked with defining what does social and racial justice mean at GSS, considering our mission statement. So more to come on the outcome of that work, but it's a real great experience for me to be teamed up in collaboration with others across the organization. Finally, I'd like to talk a little bit about our North America mission and values team. That N shouldn't be there. So part of the work of the mission and culture department is to participate on a team that promotes Good Shepherd's mission across North America and beyond. And with this pandemic, we have been given the opportunity to do this virtually. So when we're hosting these events, we're getting to meet folks that are not only in North America, but you may have someone logging in Thailand like 2 o'clock in the morning, and then someone at 1 a.m. from Rome. And so, it just really gives you a sense that we are a part of a greater whole. And so the North America Mission and Values team has planned virtual events throughout 2021, and there are about 17 of them. One such event was last month's North America Equity Panel, which consisted of members of Good Shepherd programs from across North America, including Canada. And in this powerful webinar, we learned from 5 Good Shepherd agencies, including ours. Diana was hosting there, about what they are doing to address racial equity in their communities. So please try to attend one of these events whenever you get a chance so you can really network and outside of Good Shepherds, New York City. I want to extend my thanks to all of you. Your collective energy and wisdom bring our values and mission to life. You keep hope alive for many, including myself, and for that, I'm very grateful. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to private message Selena or connect with me. I'll be happy to chat. And I would like to now turn this back to Diana, who will talk to us a little bit more about learning and development updates. Diana?
Thank you. I also forgot to mention that if folks didn't receive it, we also did a Black Women Are Essential calendar through our Black Lives Matter work group. We sent out an email to all staff with the attachments, but if you didn't receive it, let us know and we can drop it in the chat as well so folks can download it. And it's featuring many of your colleagues. Actually, each month has at least one colleague. And thank you to those who nominated women to be in the calendar. It's a really feel good calendar. And the quotes were selected by the women who were nominated. And the entire calendar was produced by Black or Indigenous or people of color. And yeah, the entire project. Yeah, yeah. So it's a pretty awesome project. So learning and development, you can go to the next slide. So again, same concept. If it's in yellow, it's in process. Some things have happened, but we are not like at the finish line. If it's red, it's on pause for the current year because of other priorities. And if it's green, it means it's good to go. So training requirements charts. Actually, stay tuned. In the next couple of weeks, we are going to release a general GSS checklist for all required GSS trainings. Every single staff member will have access to this checklist. It will be a paper version that will eventually be built out in our learning management system, our LMS on ADP. But because we know COA is coming, which is our accreditation process, we want to get to everyone the general kind of checklist, even if it's on paper. And folks can feel free to fill it out and check it for themselves to say, I've done this training on this date, or I need to redo that training. So it's coming soon. That'll be the main one that we release first. We also are going to modify the Medicaid managed care training checklist as well. So those are going to be the two priority checklists that come out in the next few weeks, actually. So that's happening. That's in progress. That's in movement. Cross department collaboration, that's constantly in progress. So we have been meeting with different departments and areas uh, over the course of the year. We spend time with FJS, we spend time with the TCI trainers, we spend time with after schools last week. So it really rotates and it's our opportunity to kind of check in on needs. Increased training modalities, because we have shifted to a virtual platform, as you all know, because of COVID, we haven't necessarily increased anything outside of transitioning all of our workshops to an online kind of module format. So we have done it, but the overall kind of let's do more beyond that, it's been a bit challenging only because of the current climate and trying to just get everything available for e-learning, live e-learning, not like e-learning that can happen self-paced. So we're distinguishing those two things. So curriculum enhancement and facilitator reorientation. One of the things when learning and development came over to the ARE branch was to make sure that we were looking at all curriculum and ensuring that all of our facilitators understood the direction that Good Shepherd was moving in. we did host an orientation for all external facilitators and even internal facilitators to talk about the direction that we are moving in and the framework that we're using. And all of the external facilitators were really excited and ready to kind of get in alignment with our direction in programming. We are currently revamping curriculum piece by piece. As I said, we've added lots of new additions to the learning kind of calendar and options. But I'm going to let Kali talk a little bit about some of the curriculum revamps. And Cece already mentioned a couple of the revamps that we've already done to have an anti racist and equity lens, including our approach and mission and cultural orientation. So that is happening, it's in process. We have enhanced, shout out to Star on our team, who produces a really wonderful kind of brochure newsletter that goes out on a regular basis with our catalog and the upcoming workshops. External clients get it as well as internal folks if you're signed up for it. So shout out to Star. We also have produced this fiscal year, you all might have received it in the fall, a yearly training catalog. That was a big deal for L&D to switch from quarterly to yearly so folks could see what workshops were coming down the pipeline. While we do make revisions based on, let's say, low attendance rates, we will change the catalog. It is nice for us to have kind of a roadmap for the whole year. So if folks are needing to take a training, they can. That also brings me to us accommodating based on the meetings that we were having with folks across the agency starting in October or September. We started, next slide, we started to offer workshops on the weekends. So what you'll see here is that for the first time in GSS's history, we're offering weekend workshops to again accommodate the need for staff to be able to take it and not miss kind of their main work responsibilities and duties. We are also offering, based on feedback that we receive, workshops that start at 3:30 so that we can catch folks who are working a later shift in the day. So please note that we've made these changes based on feedback that we heard and the need for them. So we hope to see more folks take advantage of the weekend workshops as well as the later afternoon workshops. Again, we're coming across our COA accreditation process. And so we want to make sure that we continue to accommodate the needs for multiple kind of times for folks to be able to get meet the required workshops as well as the additional developmental opportunities. So those are kind of like the main L&D updates, and that's pretty much it. If you haven't signed up or seen the weekend workshops, you can log in through ADP, go to your LMS page, and you'll see all of the workshops that we have on the calendar. Also, Margie sent out a reminder last week letting all GSS staff know that we have weekend workshops and evening workshops available, and also that you should be getting your supervisor's approval in advance of attending a workshop to make sure that that time is okay with your supervisor and that you're not missing any major work responsibilities. We want to underscore that folks should not be doing other things while they're in workshops. We're essentially replacing in-person time online. So we want to mimic an in-person environment in that space. So you should be fully present with your camera on, ready to participate, engage, and not doing other tasks and responsibilities while attending learning opportunities. To note, moving forward, L&D will actually kind of really strongly encourage that because we want to make sure you're getting the most out of it, right? And if you're doing other things, you're missing out on some of the learning. So that's it for learning and development.
Thank you, Diana. We really appreciate all those updates. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to private message Selena, and we'll do our best to answer the questions before the end of our time together. Now, I'd like to introduce and welcome Kali Mincy, who is our Assistant Director of Leadership Development, and she will provide us some updates on that area of our work. Welcome, Kali.
Hello, Cece. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the time. And Cece, we can move to the next slide, please. Can you hear me?
Oh, I hear you now.
Oh, okay, thanks. All right. So everyone, if there's nothing else that you remember in the next 10 minutes or so, one of the things that I really want you to keep top of mind is why leadership development matters right now at Good Shepherd Services. So when we think about, really what we've been doing, what we've done so far, and what we will do, a lot of it is all about how do we reinforce, the value of leadership development right now. And that's more because when you think about, historically within the organization for a long time, we've been more of a compliance-driven organization when it comes to training, right? And obviously that's critical, for participant and staff safety and funding, right? But in order to become a multicultural anti-racist organization, we want to take more of a development-driven approach when it comes to staff learning. And to do that, what we realize is that, one, we have to be strategic about how equity is created across the organization. We want to position ourselves as a full-fledged learning organization, which again takes into account training and development and really prioritizes both. And then really thinking about, how we develop talent to make sure that they bring that DEI lens to everything that we do. And when we are looking at how leadership development specifically is driving equity, we see that as more, equity in how new staff, are set up for success, through onboarding, or, equity when it comes to making sure that everyone has opportunities for career development, learning and growth over time. And then even you think about, how performance is measured, right? So it's equity in, how performance is evaluated and how staff are rewarded for doing great work. And then more specifically, how are people identified for promotions, when those become available. And then when you think, about how over time, particular people have been selected for particular roles or identified, for particular development opportunities, we want to think more about that, about how more staff are mentored and sponsored to step into leadership roles as they become available. So I just really want, again, to really emphasize, why leadership development matters so much for our organization, especially around the ARE goals that we have for ourselves. So Cece, you can move forward to the next slide, please. Okay, so when we think about what we've done, and really I'm narrowing the scope in terms of what we've done really just in this fiscal, but more specifically just over the fall and the winter. And what I want to call out more specifically is what you see there around leader as coach and supervisor as coach. What we've been able to do is offer 4 separate development sessions for support directors, division directors, and supervisors in general. And between November and January, we're able to get 34 staff trained in these particular areas. And I want to highlight too that even though the Jean Goldberg Thomas Institute is underway right now, once we get into April and May, there are going to be more sessions for leader as coach, supervisor as coach, and then that follow-on half-day session around coaching with an equity lens. So I want to mention that. What you also see here, and we'll get into a little bit more detail, Joy and I will toward the end, is around the staff engagement and retention survey. Now, I know most of you on the line are like, Kylie, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't understand that combination of words. But what we highlight there is that what we formerly understood to be the GSS Staff Satisfaction Survey is now being called Staff Engagement and Retention Survey. And so between December and January, we went into a very deep redesign to have a new focus for what the purpose of the survey really was to be about. So we spent quite a bit of time there. And then when you look at that September through January timeframe, frontline leaders, emerging leaders who previously participated in the Jean Goldberg Thomas Institute last season, we really brought them back to help us redesign and recruit more staff to participate this go round. And the reason that mattered in particular is because of COVID. Obviously, what were in-person sessions previously, we had to really rethink and reframe all of the learning and how we can make it a meaningful experience in less time online. So we were able to pull a number of staff. And Cece, if you can move us forward just one slide. I really want to give a shout out to those staff who really supported in this work. So from the emerging leader side, we just give a shout out to Derek and Eric, Nicole, Tiny, Pascal, and then the senior leader group, Akelia, Alex, Minas, and Webster. So over a course of several different sessions and even some offline follow-up, they were really able to highlight, what's most important for frontline emerging and senior leaders to dig into right now, just in terms of the realities on the ground. And so just as a call out here, both emerging and senior leaders are in the midst of doing their pre-work right now. So we were able to recruit 60 different staff members across the organization to participate in 10 days of sessions. And so there's a bit of pre-work between this week and the first week of March. And then it is going to be in March that all 3 cohorts are going to be digging into that work. For senior leaders in particular, this is the first time that we've had a cohort for this group. So 20 of them are going to be focused on what does it mean to lead for organizational impact. The emerging group is going to focus more on maximizing leader potential. And in the frontline group, they're going to have a 4-hour session around learning agility. Okay, so Cece, just we can move forward. Okay, thank you for that. So I know that there's a lot of content here on the slide, right? But I'm not going to read it verbatim. I just want to give you just a high-level overview of what we're in the midst of doing right now. So a lot of you over the past few months may have seen either on LinkedIn or through email how it is that we're acknowledging leaders for their commitment, right? Whether it's commitment to the coaching work that's been happening or their commitment to participating in the Leadership Institute. So it's been really rolling out. It's more of a postcard campaign to highlight the faces, the names of staff who are taking the time to do this work, and then really just learning more about what their experiences are. The other thing that we're in the midst of doing, and Diana had mentioned it in terms of what particular workshops and learning offerings are currently being designed or developed. And so what we're going to be scoping out is one around group dynamics and team leadership. So what you see there, we're looking to launch that either in the summer or fall. With what you see there, just this is not all that it is, but these are some of the key points that we really want to address around active inquiry, which is a key coaching skill, thinking about social influence and power in groups and how that moves, and how do we really address intergroup conflict. So these are some of the things that will build into that group dynamics series. Okay, and then we can move forward, Cece. Okay, thank you. So the reason that I'm putting this slide up is really just to showcase more the populations of staff that are participating in that Leadership Institute right now. It's a beautiful thing to see, again, that we were able to pull 60 staff and get them registered pretty quickly to participate with Center for Creative Leadership. One of the things that I want to name to the room right now is that, yes, there is one open seat in the senior leader group. So if you are a division director, for example, a support director, an assistant director of any sort, whether it's program staff or support staff, feel free to reach out to me if you're interested in taking up that one seat. What I would ask is that you email me, if not today, no later than Wednesday, because again, the pre-work is currently underway and I want to make sure that you have enough time to submit that to Center for Creative Leadership before the session starts. Okay, we can move forward, Cece. Okay, thanks. So once again, just piggybacking off of Diana's comments and also Cece's comments in terms of what, not so necessarily new programming, but programming that's existed that we're really enhancing. And so one of the things that we know to be true is that it's been some time since any of the subsets of the supervisory certificate program have been, have launched really. And so what we're doing collectively as a team is really taking a hard look at what have been historically really great bones for the supervisory certificate program and thinking about what more we can add to it so that way we have a broader menu of options for supervisors. So the main piece to take away here is that right now we're working on developing the values and framework component and looking to pilot that in July. Now, of course, that the values and framework component, it really is a standalone, right? That ties more into, the mission and culture work that CC leads. but it also ties to the certificate program as well. So again, we want to pilot that starting in July. And then in terms of the larger program series, we'll launch that in October. Okay, so we'll move forward, Cece. Thanks. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is, with this particular 360 assessment timeline, there are a lot of folks in the organization who have not heard much about it. And that's because the idea of rolling out a 360 assessment for ET members and SLG is something that is still being designed, it's still being scoped out. So far, the executive team has been able to provide feedback on how these assessments are going to be rolled out, what the post-development for leaders would actually look like. And then actually next week on March 1st and 2nd, we'll be meeting with different SLG members. That way they can weigh in and give insights around what the scope of this work should look like and how we can really get the word out. So we're looking forward to meeting with SLG to do that. And then once we get into the March town hall, that's when we'll dig in a little bit more around what it all means for the organization, what education sessions are going to be rolled out, both for the people who will be going through the assessment, as well as staff who will be providing feedback to the executive team and SLG in the assessment. And then also to share a little bit with you around what the post-assessment coaching and workshops for leaders would look like. So we'll get into, again, more detail come March. Okay. And then Cece, we can move forward here. All right. And so what you're looking at here, a moment ago, I did mention that what was formerly the Staff Satisfaction Survey is now going to be the Staff Engagement and Retention Survey. As a lot of you know, because of COVID, we didn't have the 2020 Staff Satisfaction Survey rollout. But 2021, we're going to launch this particular survey version. Again, it's been completely redesigned from what you've known it to be historically, and it really is focused on three main areas. One being COVID response, two, hence the name, being staff engagement and retention, and then three, thinking about more GSS agency overall and the functions. And then for anyone who's curious, I won't get too much into it right now, just in the interest of time, but for anyone who's curious about, well, why are we changing the name? Really what we want to think about is, as an organization, right? We mainly want to measure, what key factors, play into how we're engaging staff and how we can retain staff for the long haul. And when we think about the concept of staff satisfaction in general, it's important to think about that is it's more of the result, right? So if the idea being that if we're doing staff engagement well as an organization, if we're doing the most that we can do to make sure staff want to be with us for the long haul, satisfied staff as a result. It's not necessarily the goal. And so that way, we can really focus in on the purpose, right? What is retention about? What is engagement about? Being more around career development, work-life balance. What are the characteristics of a job, right? Does it suit staff? And thinking about supervisor behavior and accountability, right? So this is something that we just wanted to emphasize for you. Okay. So Cece, we can move forward to the last slide. All right. So this is just more of a snapshot around the general timeline. Obviously, you don't see in the green box specific dates. And that's because, even though we've now designed the survey, right, we're still developing the rollout plan for it and still having conversations with both ET and SLG around this. But one of the things, before I turn it over to Joy, who's going to talk a little bit more and give you a little bit more context around this, it's just that, this particular survey, we really want to be thinking about, how well is Good Shepherd making decisions and communicating, responding, before, during, and after a crisis, right? How is it that Good Shepherd is developing staff, to really thrive during change now and say over the next 3 years or so? And then as we said earlier, how well is, as an organization, developing staff, to lead the organization with an equity lens, right? And then more specifically, how well are we positioned to attract staff, right, and to retain staff? So that really, again, is just emphasizing what the real point of this particular survey is beyond just to what extent staff are happy, right? So I do want to turn it over to Joy.
Thanks, Kali. I just wanted to give a quick update on next steps where we are with the survey process. As Kali mentioned, they did go through an extensive process to craft and design the new survey, which took some time. They had a great group. Kali and the rest of the committee did an excellent job with the questions. And at that point, we had reviewed them with executive team. They gave a lot of feedback. We also sent the draft to SLG. We met with them for a few hours and they gave us some really good feedback. We also received additional feedback from SLG for members who unfortunately weren't able to make it. So that was great. And now we're going to move forward and take all that feedback together, and myself, Alex Marcus, Diana Noriega, and Kali are going to sit down and make sure we integrate a lot of that feedback into what will be the final draft version of the survey. At that point, we want to then send it out to a pilot group, just a small group of staff to see how they respond to the questions, see if they make sense, to see if we get any more feedback from that particular pilot group before we actually roll it out to the full agency. So that's going to take maybe a next couple of weeks for us to pull that together and then send it out to the pilot group, and then see what feedback we get from that. Any changes that need to be necessary, we'll have a final draft and we'll just run that by executive team and SLG one last time before we roll it out. So hopefully you'll be seeing that soon. We're hoping for at least April to get that to roll out, barring any more setbacks. And then we'll be able to share that with everyone very soon. A lot of the times, and for some of the older staff that have been here for a long time, the ones who've had longevity, as you know, in our past history, we've had our staff satisfaction survey, and we've also had what we call corrective action plans that came out after that from the results of the survey. This year, we want to ensure that we alter that process a little bit and allow HR to have a little bit more oversight in that part of the process, where we can definitely give separate divisions outlines to work with the corrective action plan, or what we're actually calling our now restorative action plan, because we believe that was a little bit more trauma-informed way of using that language. And we'll hopefully be able to do that, and every division will be able to go through a restorative action plan, and we can definitely get all the contents of the survey and things that staff wanted us to really hone in on, and everyone will have a voice that way. Okay, I think that was it, right, Kali? Did I miss anything?
No, I think you got it.
You got it? All right,
Yes,
so I'm
ma'am.
passing it to back to you.
You are passing it back to me.
Oh, Cece.
So much. I caught it.
Play one more song.
I got you, Joy. So we have lots and lots of questions that have been asked, but before we move into Q&A, I am super excited to introduce Ishan Hall, who is the program director at the McLaughlin East Harlem residence, and Luis Fuentes, who is the senior program director of the Monterey Cornerstone Community Center. Welcome.
Hi.
Hey, good people. Hey, good people. Thank you so much. We just wanted to put y'all on to a great event that we're having on February 26th. It's a 24-hour event celebrating Black excellence, Black history, past, present, and future contributions to the culture. And when you think about this particular day, think about it as you can't miss not one thing. You got to be there from 9 on. Because from now we talking about our agency and how we're moving as a group and how we're handling racial justice. Then from there, we doing something with the after school programs in the Bronx. We doing something with everybody. Everybody gonna have a little bit to play. LGBTQ gonna be talking. Then we gonna have a battle at the end about rap. Everything's going down that day. So you gotta come at least for all events, not even just one, all of it. So I'm putting it out there, man. I wanna see everybody, okay?
All right, thanks, Lou. And what Louis was saying is definitely, it's historical. We all living in a historical moment right now, going through this COVID pandemic, but this is also historical. It's a 24-hour Zoom event. I've never heard of nothing like this. So I'm really excited to be a part of it. Cece was talking about 2 a.m. in Thailand, 1 a.m. in Rome. You'll be able to hop on this whenever you have the opportunity to. And for those of you who, for whatever wild and crazy reason, cannot make it, it will be available post the event where you'll be able to click on different segments individually to watch at your leisure or with your family or when you do get a moment to. So there'll also be a roundtable event with the White Anti-Racism Accountability Group, which should be very interesting to check out. There'll be historical walks taking place. There'll be movies that you could watch that you may not have seen, all related to the culture. So definitely come
So
out.
while we got y'all ready, there's a link in the chat. Don't waste your time. Do it now. It's going to take 2 seconds for you to log on to the event.
All right, we need to
Do it now. And then we're going to answer questions and all that. But do it now. 2 seconds. Right now, click the chat, sign up for something.
Yeah,
Why you
somebody
have me
check us
jumping in
out.
my
Thank
seat
you.
over here? I'm jumping. I can't wait for this day.
Let's get it. It's going to be a party. It's Friday. I don't think we get paid that day, but we can still have some fun, man. We're going to
See,
live it up.
it's 130 people right here. I got all your names, so come on now. We're
Yeah,
gonna
come
pull up.
on, man. Sign up for something.
Oh gosh, thank
Thanks,
you
CC.
all so much. I'm sure that people tell somebody to tell somebody to tell somebody. If they weren't here, make sure that you
To
tell
bring
them.
your friends so your friend can bring another friend and more friends come. You get it?
Yeah, your mom, your cousins, your brothers, everybody. Okay, so listen, thank you so much, Ishan and Louis. Y'all been amazing. I'm jumping for real. So thank you so much. See you on Friday. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, we have lots and lots of questions from folks. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see everybody's beautiful faces again. Hi, look at the green going on. Hey, Black History Month. Okay, so I'm going to try to do this as easy as I can. So Diana, we're going to start with you. And by the way, Wanda has dropped the link. Please check out the link to register, okay? So Diana, I'm gonna focus on you for these following questions. The first question is, how will the report card criteria work? And what will happen to programs with failing grades?
That's a great question. So we're going to start another committee for the program scorecard, and it'll be an open invitation, similar to how we've done with the mission and culture, similar to what we will do with the knowledge management retention process. So folks should stay tuned for an announcement, kind of inviting you to sit on a work group, and it'll be temporary, meaning that we'll take 2 months. So on the calendar, I think I put April to, I think we start in April, but it shouldn't take more than 2 months to kind of get through the work. We're going to, of course, be looking for representation from each program area, right? To make sure that we're capturing all voices, but we don't want to put limitations or restrictions on it yet. We want the committee to really kind of help us decide what that will look like. So it'll be really driven by the voices, and hopefully we can also gather stakeholder voice as well as beyond the committee to make sure that we're capturing as many voices as possible. Is that helpful?
I think it is. The
Okay.
person that asks if you need more info, you can contact Diana and she'll definitely fill it in if she didn't already. Diana, again, this one is for you. How will the training for the hiring managers work, and will there be accountable measures for hiring managers that don't follow mandates?
That's a great question. So the Alex, Marcus, and I, again, we're kind of going through the pilot of the process, meaning that he and I have been largely leading it to make sure that we're working it out. So before we design a training to make for all hiring managers to take, that it's really fine tuned. A portion of this training will have to, of course, address microaggressions and implicit bias, as well as like the process and steps, and them kind of thoroughly kind of moving through that. So that'll be kind of the scope of the training, so to speak. We'll also present some preliminary data. What we know for certain is that if you follow this process, you do increase the number of diverse candidates that end up getting the roles. So for 4 out of the 5 major processes that we did this for, major roles that we did this for, 4 out of the 5 candidates were candidates of color, including a candidate who was on exec team, right? So we again know that when you do the process and you follow the steps, you will increase the diversity of candidates that you hire. So accountability to that particular piece. Alex and I have been discussing that. And so right now, I think we want to start with an audit, a randomized audit, also connected to other pieces of data that we would see. So, for instance, if you have a lot of DEI employee relations issues lodged against you, you're someone whose data we're going to pay a little more closer attention to than someone else. Initially, we have to do it this way until we can figure out a way to gather some of that data from iCIMS. Alex, Marcus, and I actually do have a meeting coming up with iCIMS, the folks who do our employee, who we use for employee application onboarding, so we can think really and strategize how can we better utilize it with a DEI lens.
Thank you. Can you hear me now, everyone?
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Diana. So here's another question. It says, how can the affinity groups help with the new policies that are going to be going into effect?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, well, all the groups, including LEAD, really, I think, serving as ambassadors and making sure that the message gets out to all staff. We know that information gatekeeping is a problem when it comes to equity. So we want to make sure that as many folks are informed so they can let other staff know. But I'm always happy also. I regularly I sit on LEAD. I also regularly meet with some of the other groups. Happy to meet with whoever also wants to chat about how they can elevate any messaging for work.
Thank you. Now, this one, I'm not sure if it's related to art or is this an open question for Michelle, so I'll just throw it out there. It says, how do you see cross-program collaborations working? I'm sorry. How do you see cross-program collaborations working as well as external fundraising? Is it? Sorry, somebody just sent another message there. I'm so sorry. Uh, oh, I lost it. Don't text anymore. Okay, hold on. Don't text me until I finish reading this one. Okay, is it still in a planning stage, or do you have concrete ideas on how staff can be supportive to those ideas?
I'm not, I think I would need a little more context to that question, but Michelle, I don't know if you want to take it.
I also I would welcome if the questioner would want to hop on and clarify, or maybe clarify more information to Cece, whatever you feel comfortable with, because I'm not really clear what the question is asking.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about that one. Okay, so while that person is either, if you're gonna unmute.
Yeah, I was the one who asked the question.
Go ahead, Louis.
To be more specific, like when we say collaboration across programs, on a concrete matter, how do we see that unfolding? Like what has been discussed, what ideas have y'all kicked around? And the same question being said for the external fundraising, so we could be more self-sufficient. In regards to concrete ideas, what has been discussed? Because I know it sounds like you're still in the planning phase at the same time, but just curious what specifics have been discussed.
Oh, you're talking about particularly in the context of learning and development in the work that we're doing.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, got it. Thank you. Super helpful. Thank you, Luis. So in the context of learning and development schedules regular meetings with different program leaders. I have participated in that. Cece has participated in that. Kali, various members of our team participate in those meetings. And the thought process is, let's talk about what are your training requirements based on your funder. Let's also talk about what support you need and what we could be doing better. From those conversations, we then implement changes, some of which include offering weekend opportunities, offering later in the day opportunities. So what we actually do is we kind of discuss with those teams. And Jose, I hope you don't mind. I see you're kind of like right in my point of reference.
Mm-hmm.
We're also we just had a conversation with after schools, and Jose, I don't know if you want to talk about what
Sure.
we discussed.
Yeah, we've been talking about, our model, right? So we've kind of taken a pause in terms of our after school model and really assessing what are the trainings we need now, and then what are the trainings that we could kind of put off to later on. And so we really approach L&D and say, hey, this is what our need is. Can we kind of look at this and see what makes the most sense? So we are pulling charts together, spreadsheets. We're doing a curriculum to kind of see what makes the most sense of what we've had, kind of like pre-COVID. COVID and then post-COVID. And these are all temporary things that we're coming up with. So this was a nice collaboration with Shantae, myself, and met with L&D and their folks to really think through the next steps and who can take on what. So that's a nice collaboration for the after school world.
Yeah. So no, thank you, Jose, for providing immediate context. So Lewis, just to kind of answer your question and provide more context, it's independent on the team. The outcome, the team tells us what they need, and we kind of negotiate and say, hey, we can do this, or hey, this might be a bigger lift for us. But we definitely keep in mind everything everyone shares, and some of it's just a matter of when we can respond to that team's need, if that makes sense. We also regularly meet with the TCI trainers. Akilia might be in the room or might not, but we are kind of working with them also to think about what trainings do we need to offer for staff. So for instance, TCI trainers are going to offer for our foster care program a very particular modified TCI training for foster care. So LND is helping to facilitate that conversation. That's it. Is that helpful, Louis? Yeah. And then for external funding, enhancing our marketing, also the Anti-Racism and Equity Institute, the external version, we are charging a fee to nonprofits that has actually and will generate money for our branch.
Hmm. Thank you, Diana. I'm going to take you a step back. Can you hear me? Now I'm not sure if people can hear me. Okay, just a step back. Someone answered related to what you were just talking about. What are the standards that you and Alex have discussed specifically? This all seems like we're still planning.
Are we talking particularly about the hiring, the equitable hiring managers work?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. We It's not in planning, so it's in pilot phase. So what that means is we actually have implemented a strategy and a process, particularly at least 11 steps, including redacting names from resumes, taking off names of universities, also asking standardized questions. So there are actual several things that we have done. So what we're doing though is as we pilot it, we collect feedback from folks who participate in those processes to say, here's how you improve and enhance it. So I wouldn't say it's still in planning stage. I would say it's actually been implemented, but we want to make it better. And that's our goal is to pilot, try it out, do it, make it better. And that's the process.
Okay, just noting about time. Time is short for us right now. We have a couple of more things, but I'm gonna ask the question. Uh, Lead council. What is happening with the lead council?
That's a great question. And Keisha, are you on the call? Because I would love it if the co-chair could answer
Yes,
that.
that's awesome. This is Keisha. So the lead council, we're still moving. We are actually getting ready to send out information regarding our new nomination process for our new co-chair role and send out our applications for new membership. So look for that in your emails.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Keisha. So Diana, back to you. L&D related stuff. Will
Oh,
the
wait a
track?
minute. Oh, can I add something else?
Oh, sure.
Yes,
I,
we're also sending out, I'm sorry, we're sending out this week, we're going to send out a flyer. We are doing a Black History Month e-cookbook with a playlist. This is a great
yeah.
opportunity to promote it. We want everyone to send in their favorite recipe with their memory. You can record it, you can send it in writing, whichever way you want to send it. And we're going to put together a Good Shepherd Services cookbook. And it's going
Oh,
to be an e-cookbook. We're going to send it out to you with a playlist that we've created. So we're
oh,
excited. So look for that in your email this week as well.
what a great idea, Keisha. Thank you, and to the lead council, we really appreciate it. All right, so L&D related stuff. Back to Diana. Will the tracker for mandatory training specify when a training needs to be renewed after X amount of time or years?
Yes. Yes, yes.
Oh,
So
good.
it'll actually be comprehensive. Again, someone can write their name on it, someone can write their supervisor's name on it, and they actually can be used as a tool in supervision. So we will encourage supervisors to sit with their staff and go through it to make sure that they're talking about each and every single required training. It talks about frequency, it talks about what programs are particularly required if it's program specific. We are, however, just to name this is general agency wide, we are going to follow this by creating program specific checklists later on because we know that we have so many contracts that require additional trainings and
Yeah.
workshops.
And we're super diverse, so that's interesting. Thank you so much. Kali, this goes out to you. How do supervisors sign up for the trainings, and what would be the most appropriate? Leaders as coach or as supervisors as coach? I'm not sure if this is like a very specific question for an individual, but also somebody asks, what in the world does JGTL mean? So if you can also cover that up, that would be great. It's a double question for you.
Um, Cece, can you ask the question again?
How do supervisors sign up for trainings? Like, what would be the most appropriate? Leaders as coach or supervisors as coach?
Sorry, I missed it.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. If you can maybe just go to the next question and we'll come back to it.
okay, no problem. So, what does JGTL stand for?
Ah, I heard that.
Hmm.
Jean Goldberg Thomas's Leadership Institute.
Thank you. So,
Yeah.
Kali, someone asks why all directors in support division are senior leaders, but program directors are emerging leaders. They're looking at that PowerPoint.
Yeah. So when you think about the way the program was initially set up, back in 2018, when it was first kicked off with the Columbia program in the first iteration of the Leadership Institute, it was more the way the programming was originally set. And so when we decided to roll it out, we wanted to make sure that the first round of people who participated, that they were tracking, right? So the idea initially was is that the first cohort was going to have a second round of programming, and so we wanted to kind of keep it consistent with what was already started.
Mm,
If I
thank
could,
you.
if I could also just add to that, something that I don't think is often known across the agency is that the title in the program areas of division director is considered the equivalent title of director in the support division. So it's really support director versus division director being program and support director being in the support areas. And so, and that's also why those are the individuals who have made up largely senior leadership group. So in this from the 7th Avenue offices, it's the support director titles. In the program areas, it's the division director titles. So that's also why.
Thank you, Michelle. Here's another one that's going out to Kali. Should we email Kali directly about the supervisors as coach certification program? I have taken the GSS and the ACS coaching training, but I am unclear on the scope and sequence.
Right. So there are two separate pieces. So the ACS coaching series, if and this is just a general response for the room, if anyone's interested in the ACS coaching series, you would sign up for that through ACS's Cornerstone, right? So that would be separate from anything GSS specific. If you're interested in doing leader as coach, supervisor as coach, or coaching with an equity lens that is GSS specific, and you can sign up for that through our internal LMS system. If you have specific questions about it, you could email me, but just from a process standpoint, you could also email the workshops at Good Shepherds to get more details about signing up via LMS.
Thank you, Kali. So this one is open. I'm not sure who it's directed to, but it says, do we have an evaluation form for supervisees to reflect on relationship and support needs? Where might I find it for my unit if it exists?
It's a great question. I think some of that comes out in the staff engagement survey where folks should, and honestly, I think we all welcome it, expressing what your needs are for other areas of the agency. Is that, Kali and Joy, would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's really the main goal behind it.
Wonderful. So I'm going to go back to that question to you, Kali, which I think I'll read it again, which is how do supervisors sign up for trainings and what would be the most appropriate, leaders as coach or supervisors as coach?
So if your title is, if your title is supervisor, supervisor as coach is most appropriate. For leader as coach, that's more appropriate for any executive directors, SLG members, support directors, and the like.
Thank you. So we're rolling up to the last couple of questions, and what I would suggest around the leadership development, if you have specific questions, Kali is super open. You can contact her directly, and she will help steer the way. I had a question for me, which is cultural events. Where can I suggest an event, and how are they planned? Well, what we do in the mission and culture, this is relatively new work, but I also would like to do it in collaboration. And so we're usually planning for the following month, the month that we're in. And so if you have any events or suggestions, or even if you have one for months from now, please feel free to email me. We can chat it out. I would love some help with some of this because no one person can live culture here. And I am not the expert of every culture. So I really need your help. And so if you're interested, contact me. We can work it out. And please tell somebody to tell somebody because when we post those calendars, we encourage you to like respond. So of course we cannot highlight every single thing. Like for example, if there's a carnival happening in Puerto Rico, which there just was, I can't put it on this calendar. But if I go to the green door and I see the cultural calendar, I may say, and guess what's happening in my on my island today? I know it's not on the calendar, but let me tell you what's happening. And then, each one teach one. So again, please feel free to email me. If we can do something collaboratively for Good Shepherd, including participants, I would love that. I have one final question because I know we're short on time and we want to honor your time. Uh, can non GSS come to the 24-hour event? Can non GSS folks? Where's Louis?
Is water wet? Of course they can, man. Like, listen, everybody's family.
I love it. I love it. Again, it's open, and we strongly encourage that we include our program participants whenever possible. So we're gonna go ahead and stop the question and answers for now. If you have any burning questions, feel free to let us know. I am going to move. I have to remove my background to go to the next part of our event before we leave. So we will now like to take a moment of silence to commemorate the 500,000 lives that we have lost to COVID. At 6:15 p.m. today, there will be a nationwide observance. And if you want to participate, you can Google for a channel. Um, so if you would like to live someone in this space, please do so. But I'm going to go ahead and just stop sharing my screen, sorry, and hold a moment of silence. So those five bells were the four in memory of those 500,000. I'll also light this candle in their memory. And may their souls rest in peace. Thank you all. I'd like to invite now Irina Kaplan, who is our Director of Trauma Informed Practice and Resiliency. Welcome, Irina.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to share my screen, but first I want to say I really appreciate that, Celia, for lighting the candle and for that moment for us. So I figured we would finish up our, as we finish up February, right? And we're going to finish up this meeting by talking about something that's so core to what we do here at Good Shepherd, which is nurturing relationships. And it's our tip of the month for February, but it's also a core part of our approach, as Cece mentioned much earlier. And so, nothing has emphasized the importance of relationships as much as what we've been going through the last year or so. And we know that human beings really thrive in relationship and in community. And what we've witnessed in this time is this incredible impact on our personal relationships, our family, our friends, our workplaces, and our communities, right? As we've continued to strive to keep each other safe, as we've continued to adapt to this environment. And we've had to really learn to be creative in how we see each other, right? And I say see in quotes, right? Because now we're seeing each other through a screen, which is very, very different than what we're used to. But again, all of this has really just served to highlight just how vital and protective nurturing relationships are, right? And it's everything that we do. And so when we think about relationships, we know that a lot of times our ideas about relationships come from our earliest relationships, right? Whoever is our caregiver, right? We learn something called scripts or mental models, right? We learn about relationships through the positive and negative experiences of childhood, particularly when our brains are really vulnerable to any kind of changes or inputs, right? So like around 0 to 5, right? Our brains are particularly sensitive and particularly changing. And what happens is we learn that when, for example, if a child or an infant, a small young one is crying, right? A caregiver of some kind responds, and the child learns that this caregiver is warm, safe, and responsive, and learns from that relationships, right? The script for relationships is that one should be responsive in some way, one should be warm, right? One should create safety. But what happens, right, when some of the children and the youth in the families that we serve are exposed to what we call adverse childhood experiences or childhood trauma? They learn the opposite, right? They develop a script of relationships that the world is unsafe, right? That relationships are inherently unsafe because they've experienced these adversities, and the folks who are charged with protecting them and keeping them safe have not necessarily done so, right? And so that's something for us to keep in mind, because we see so much of that with our participants, and a lot of that is really magnified right now during this time of great loss and collective trauma, as we're all going through together. And so understanding this connection between trauma and relationships is really key, right? That's how we learn how healing works. And so one of the most important things that is incredibly important for healing and for resiliency, we've learned and research bores out, is that the presence of just one stable and supportive relationship with a caring adult is actually the most significant factor in promoting healing and resiliency. So think about how powerful that is, right? That just one stable and supportive relationship, right, means the world to so many folks. And so that's what we do, right? That's what we strive to do here at Good Shepherd Services. I see Cece clapping. I love that support. But again, that's what we do. And that's what our approach is all about, right? It's how we use our approach strategies to build these relationships. And relationships are one of the core parts of those strategies, but so is safety, all aspects of safety, not just physical safety, but emotional safety, psychological safety, social safety, so real safety in relationships. When we create that, when we spend time building that, right, that's when our participants and our staff, right, our colleagues can sort of let go of some of our earlier beliefs about relationships and start to develop new ways of coping and new ways of relating to each other. We also elevate peer support. That's another one of our approach strategies, right, where participants and staff can connect to others with shared lived experiences, right, because we know how healing that can be. And finally, our approach strategy that's incredibly important and related to nurturing relationships is cultural humility. And we know that that is really essential to building nurturing relationships that really, and I'm going to read this, that recognize the value and dignity of all human beings and serve as an antidote to centuries of relational harm and racial trauma, right? And so that's just a touch, because what we really have learned is that every single part of our approach, right? There's 6 of those strategies, right? Every single part of our approach contributes to this and strengthens our work and really puts our mission of racial and social justice into practice. And so that's our tip of the month. Next month, we will be focusing on recovery and resiliency, so stay tuned. Cece, you're on mute. I have just a heads up, you're on mute.
Like 35 things. Irina, thank you so much for the tip, and everyone for staying and for your curious questions and minds. And just want to say, stay safety, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay kind. I'm gonna put the music back on, folks. You can unmute yourselves and say goodbye. Thank you.
Goodbye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good day, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a nice
Everyone.
bye.
Take care.
Interracial hatred, and let's learn to share. Can you feel it? It's in the air.
I see you, Julio.
It's time for change.
Get out of here. Woo! I'm with you.
Time for us to care. Follow me.
I love Julio.
Why don't you follow me?
Singing up the next one, I didn't think I'd know
Where we can be free.
Unless I just hit this.
Cece, you have to go to the second tab. So when you click share screen, it says basic and advanced. If you click on advanced, you can share computer audio only. I can't hear you, but you can stop recording too. You're still recording. Just you don't need.